Can you believe it? After a flood of criticism over its handling of the debate, ABC News switched and gave us the most satisfying pushback against Kamala Harris since her nomination. The network held Massachusetts Governor Healey to task over Kamala Harris, claiming there's no U.S. military personnel in active war zones abroad. Subscribe to the channel, take a look at this before I tell you more about it.
Kamala Harris is the one who's out there saying she's going to cut taxes for 100 million Americans. She's going to provide a tax credit to families with children. She's going to produce more housing around the country so we can lower housing costs. She's focused on lowering the cost of prescription drugs and groceries.
Governor,
what have we heard from Donald Trump beyond the pets and the like? So, the debate, we've moved on from the debate. It's about the campaign.
Governor, I want to go back to the debate because that was important, and I want to go through a few things that Kamala Harris said. I want to ask you about her comments about the military. She said during the debate this about the U.S. military. Let's listen.
As of today, there is not one member of the United States military who is in active duty in a combat zone in any war zone around the world, the first time this century.
Our fact checkers found that to be false, and I have a lot of experience in that area as well. There are currently 900 U.S. military personnel in Syria, 2,500 U.S. troops in Iraq. All have been under regular threat from drones and missiles for months. We also have action in the Red Sea. We also, every single day, the Navy SEALs, Delta Forces, special operators can be part of any sort of deadly raid. So why would she make that claim?
Well, I think what's important here, Martha, is that Kamala Harris, in contrast to Donald Trump, demonstrated herself to be commander-in-chief. We are in a world where there are all sorts of conflicts, and it's all the more reason we need somebody who's serious and who supports the military. And just remember,
but Governor, excuse me, but she said there is not one member of the United States military who is in active duty in a combat zone. That is not true.
Who would have thought that ABC News would switch so quickly, but a statement as blatantly false was never going to escape the scrutiny of online media, and Kamala Harris was fact-checked above all else by U.S. troops themselves. Take a look at this viral clip of American soldiers rumored to be stationed in the Middle East, blowing Kamala Harris's debate claim to shreds.
And as of today, there is not one member of the United States military who is in active duty in a combat zone in any war zone around the world, the first time this century.
What?
But let's understand.
So where the are we right now?
Now, there's two tangents that someone can go if they're intent on excusing Kamala Harris's statement. It can either be attributed to ignorance or simply a desire to mislead, and neither are a good look for someone that claims to want reins over the presidency. But even if you overlook that, what was even the larger point Kamala tried to make in the debate with that statement? That the U.S. has actively sought to get out of foreign interventions, or that the last 4 years of the Biden presidency have been a particularly good time for world peace. Neither of those claims can stand trial for themselves because the uptick in violence and war in the last 4 years is completely undeniable. By the way, it's hard to believe that Kamala Harris didn't know how many troops are undoubtedly deployed abroad, since the U.S. has more than 800 military bases across the world already. Add to this the fact that the U.S. military had personal thousands of stationed in combat active zones, especially in places like Iraq and Syria, after the fall of ISIS to fight off their splinter groups in the country and aid the local forces. At best, it could have been a neat trick for Kamala to separate active war zones from support-based military deployments. It was truly a sight to see ABC News hold the Democratic governor's feet to the fire on this important distinction.
Did she not know about these people in Syria and Iraq? Why would she say that?
Look, that was a comment in a debate. I think the point that she was trying to make was a broader point. And of course, we have military in place all around this country. That's important. We're the United States of America. And Kamala Harris, remember, is the person who stands with NATO, who supports our allies, who's working to bring countries together. Donald Trump stands with Vladimir Putin. So, I think that's what's really important. Kamala Harris, she respects our military. She respects our service members. Donald Trump calls them suckers and losers. And it's why Donald Trump's former military generals support Kamala Harris. They say that Donald Trump shouldn't be anywhere near the Oval Office. And I think those are the points, Martha, that people need to understand. We live in a world of very serious times with serious consequences, and the actions of the next commander-in-chief matter. Kamala Harris will be that commander-in-chief and lead us forward in freedom, working with others.
So in other words, Governor Healey is giving us the same justification that Kamala Harris herself did. Remember when she questioned Joe Biden's record on race or his opposition to some desegregation policies in the 70s? When asked about it later, Kamala Harris simply dismissed the idea, perhaps as just a talking point in a debate. That alone should tell you how serious she is herself when speaking to something in a debate context. Not to mention, many people have questioned why ABC News moderators didn't fact-check Kamala Harris for something as clearly false as suggesting that there is U.S. military deployment in active war zones. Perhaps Kamala was thinking merely about the current war in the Middle East or Eastern Europe, but even on that, using that talking point to suggest that the Biden presidency with Kamala VP has been a move toward peace is also false on its face. The world has not been as volatile for decades, with some even foreseeing another world war if things get out of hand, and the fact that 12 of the last 16 years have been under a Democrat rule, it'd be a much better use of time to account for the past instead of selling dreams of the future or simply attacking the other side. Over the few weeks, you'd see the party trying to milk the last debate as much as possible for political capital, trying to make it out as a resounding victory against Donald Trump, but none of this narrow political back and forth is worth it for the voter who's just a few weeks from the election and desperately needs the candidate to be honest and upfront about where they stand on key issues. Political mudslinging is just not interesting after a while and becomes more of a theater and a form of entertainment than genuine politics. Wasn't just the issue of foreign military deployment where this happened, but also on a subject like abortion.
Vice President Harris says she has a plan for lifting the middle class. But right now, the middle class under the Biden-Harris administration, eggs are up 119%, bread up 25%, chicken up 25%, the median home price is up 39%. This is the Biden-Harris administration. And Donald Trump is leading on the economy and immigration. What are your people saying to you? You must hear that as a governor.
Yeah, and look, I try to explain to people as governor, here's how we got here, okay? We had COVID, which Trump did not handle well. There had to be a huge infusion of money to save our small businesses and to help all of our states. Inflation rose as a result. And what's happened under the Biden-Harris administration is they've actually worked to bring down inflation. There is still work to do.
You see now how damaging it is for every vital issue to become dissolved and lost as a political talking point, and you see that happening across the political spectrum. What lacks in this election campaign right now, particularly from the Democratic side, is clarity. Neither Kamala Harris nor anyone from the broader party like Governor Healey here seem willing to commit to some policy position that they can be judged by and held to. It's only so long before the voter realizes they're being played and sees through the artificiality of the political campaign, but let me know in the comments if you agree, because we're going to see moments like this more often in the next few weeks before November.